Hello and welcome to the 2016 International Trade Forum, brought to you by Maryland, D.C. District Export Council. My name is Kelly Leonard and I am your moderator for this panel on export resources. During this segment, we'll introduce you to some local resources to help you to understand their services as you seek to expand your business globally. Immediately following our panel discussion, participants here in our live studio will have an opportunity to engage with the speakers as well as with our other resource partners for networking and more targeted assistance. So for those of you that are joining us online, that's the benefit of being here. So to begin our discussion, I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful panel. For over 30 years, Kyle Bayless has brought his thought leadership in the areas of business management, consulting, high-tech, innovation, and market strategies to small businesses. Kyle is the regional director for the Maryland Small Business Development Center Corridor region, located at the University of Maryland's College Park and Baltimore campuses. Mark Rice is the president of Baltimore-based Maritime Applied Physics Corporation. Mark formed the company after working for the Navy as a civilian engineer and has overseen the company's growth from a one-person operation to its current operation of over 60 staff. MAPC has performed work for sponsors in South Korea, France, Scotland, Germany, the Netherlands, and in Italy. Mark has served on the Maryland District Export Council for 10 years, where he provides pro bono consulting services to companies seeking to increase their business exporting. Julie Close oversees the delivery of SBA's programs and services within the greater DC area. Prior to joining SBA as the Deputy District Director, Julie was an international trade specialist with the Michigan Small Business Development Center, where she co-authored the book Trade Secrets, the Export Answer Book. And finally, Carla Menendez-McManus is a commercial officer serving at the Maryland U.S. Export Assistance Center in Baltimore. She covers information communication technology, design and construction, and the healthcare sectors. Carla also oversees Montgomery County's business and government sectors. Carla comes from the U.S. Department of State, where she was a foreign affairs officer. So welcome to our panelists. So I'm going to start with just a general question for all of you. Briefly share with us information about your organization and the services that you provide to exporters. Kyle?
Okay. I'm Kyle Bayless again. I'm with the Maryland Small Business Development Center. We're located at the University of Maryland and University of Baltimore. Our primary focus is on small businesses. And one of the things we offer is we offer free one-on-one counseling at no cost. Our whole thing is about starting businesses and trying to help them grow and expand, and to really look at their capacity to do various types of business development. We also offer training in all various areas, but our primary focus, which is a little bit different from the rest of the people here, is we're just focused on it doesn't matter what you're really getting into. It's about business expansion, and are you prepared for business expansion?
Awesome, thank you.
Kelly, thanks. So the District Export Council is a group of 30 people who are appointed by the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, and our function is to reach out to the community of small and mid-sized businesses and provide some mentoring activities. You heard from Sierra Silkman and Carl Livesay earlier today. They're both DEC members. And we support the local U.S. Department of Commerce Export Assistance Center, which Carla represents, in their function to try to increase U.S. exports, to try to improve the balance of trade. So we act as sort of a unofficial but official group that can act on things that are not possible sometimes by government employees, but are probably necessary to do out in the field. So we sponsor a number of things, and we act as a nonprofit volunteer organization of 30 people. So.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone. With the Small Business Administration, and more specifically the local district office, so we cover pretty much metropolitan Washington, D.C. And we are your small business liaison with the government. We do all things small business, including exporting, and we like to say pretty much everything we do fits into our 3 C's, whether it's be counseling through, especially through organizations like Kyle's, capital, and contracting, government contracting. So we'll talk a little bit more about, you've heard some of the capital things from Bill, and there's some more about the counseling side from Kyle.
Carla?
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you all for joining us today. So I'm here on behalf of the U.S. Commercial Service, and we are part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We are an extensive network of trade professionals located throughout the United States. Here in Maryland, we have an office in Baltimore, but our office, covers the entire state. So regardless of where you are, we will find you and we will work with you. We also have offices in over 80 countries worldwide, based in embassies and consulates. So I think that's enough for now.
Okay, awesome. So Kyle, you caught me at free resources, right? You're
free's a
talking the
strong
love
word,
language of
yeah.
small business. So take us through the process, the typical process that a company would go through in terms of working with your organization.
Okay. A lot of times we get referrals from other organizations that are here for those companies that aren't quite ready or don't look like they're export ready to start. And the way we approach it, and really what they want us to focus on, is their capacity and their ability to actually export. So we do a thorough assessment, and that's what we do really well, is an assessment of do they have the money and the resources, do they have the commitment to consider exporting. The other thing too that we're trying to promote is just trying to encourage small businesses to start exporting. And so we kind of start even before the assessment part, and that is just to try to have small businesses understand that you can expand your businesses in different ways. Back in 2008, when the recession started, we had a lot of small businesses come to us and say, I want to do government contracting. So they weren't looking for it as an opportunity in government contracting. We applied the same rules to exporting. You have to look at it. You can't look at it as a way to shore up your business. You have to look at it as an opportunity to expand your business. So we feel like we're the first level of education, and we actually work with a lot of the international and export resources in this room in co-counseling and meeting with them, as well as bringing our clients in to make sure they understand what they're getting into. And then also, we walk them through the steps. A lot of times they may be referred to just one agency, and that agency is not, they may have skipped a couple of steps before they got there. So we want to bring them back down to, is this good for your business? Will you be able to profit from this? Will this expand your business? And of course, then we go through all the process of, it's like creating a whole business. So we go through the process of business planning, all the marketing, all the things they need to do that are important to understand the cost of doing this. And not go in it with expectations manage your expectations of how much it might cost. So don't underfund yourself, and then don't have too high expectations as far as what you might earn from this.
Okay. And so part of what you mentioned earlier, you said encouraging small businesses or encouraging businesses to export. What can be done to continue in that same vein of encouraging more small and medium-sized businesses to consider exporting?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, and I like to use the quote, I think it was Henry Miller who said that what separates America is not the oceans, but it's the way we think. Mm. And so I think I paraphrased that a little bit. But the idea is, I think most small businesses in this country think I can make it here, right, and not have to worry about abroad. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really it's a cultural shift. It's trying to, it's a marketing thing as well. We can't just say 95% of your customers are outside the United States. Mm-hmm. I don't think that really resonates with them. So we need to create a better way to communicate and to encourage exporting. The other thing that we find is, and I'll use a client that I had several years ago who was from an Eastern European country who had immigrated to the United States. And actually, I was working with him through his nano business, his nanotechnology business. And he said, well, by the way, I'm trying to export California wines back to my country. And so then we started getting into that. And we discussed distributors and funding and all those kinds of things. And we eventually got him an SB Express loan for buying inventory. But the key in all that is he's a first generation.
Wow.
So he wasn't afraid to do this. So I think that's part of the mindset that we have to try to have people think about taking some chances and going outside the borders.
Okay, awesome. And now, so Kyle mentioned some SBA resources. So Julie, question to you. What tools does SBA offer to small businesses that are considering exporting?
Right, thank you. As anyone who's probably tried to explore export resources knows, when it comes to the federal government, there's a lot of people, a lot of agencies offering support. So SBA's kind of niche, if you will, in the export world is financing. You heard from Bill on the last panel about some of the financing tools and things we do. But we also, because we are here to support small business in general, we do try to play the role of liaison with other organizations, whether it be commerce, and we're co-located in many of the export assistance centers with them, or if they need the more hands-on counseling that might be appropriate for a small business development center like Kyle, SCORE, or one of our other counseling resources. So we financing is kind of the niche product you will see from SBA, niche support. But then if you come to our website, if you stumble upon us through any other web channels, we really try to make sure that you get linked to the information and the resources that you need. And so you'll see a wealth of information on our website. We do have actually a tool that's available free for download. It's an export business planner. So if you just go to sba.gov/export business planner as one word, you'll find the download there, and it's very detailed. It's actually a great complement, I think, to your basic guide to exporting, because it's more of a like a workbook approach. So to really help you do that assessment, see if you're really ready. Then start going through all the different steps and phases and have you thought about it, help you put the plan together so that when you go talk to somebody like Kyle, you've got some information and some resources. So start with our website, or if you need financing right away, you can go right to Bill.
And so you mentioned SCORE.
Yes.
For someone that doesn't know what SCORE is, can you describe what is SCORE, and then how do they provide free assistance to businesses?
Sure. SCORE, many people might have known them. They used to go by Service Corps of Retired Executives. And so these are men and women who are largely retired, but volunteer their time and expertise. So they provide, again, free business counseling. You can make an appointment with the SCORE counselor, and a lot of times they'll try to match you with the person who maybe has been in the industry or has worked and has a skill for your particular need. So if exporting is the concern, they'll probably try to match you with people who have exported in the past, and potentially in your industry even, so that you can get the benefit of having someone who's been there and done that kind of expertise, and it's almost more of a mentoring relationship. So.
Okay. Now, Mark, in previous panels there was reference to export tech, and so what is export tech, and then what can I expect in terms if I were to enroll in that type of service?
So Export Tech was born out of a Baltimore experience where a company went overseas and probably made all the mistakes that you can make when you try to export, including losing their line of credit. And I happened to be the CEO of that company when it happened, so I had some personal experience. So we went to the USIAC, and both the SBA and the USIAC helped us out of that mess. And as a result of it, it became real clear that a lot of companies are in this situation. You sort of blunder into an exporting situation. In our case, it was a $2.4 million contract when we were a $4 million company. So it was a huge opportunity, but we made a lot of mistakes. And so the intent here of Export Tech was to try to formulate something that would take a group of small businesses together through the development of an export plan that was unique to their needs. Because between the healthcare and the defense industries and the IT and the service and the products, there are huge differences between companies and different markets and different financing needs. And so we really felt you needed to tailor that. So we take 10 companies at a time through a 3-month process. And this is really funded in part by the Department of Commerce, in part by the state of Maryland. So the tuitions are very minimal. And in the 3 sessions, you have a lot of homework between the 3 sessions. But by the end of the 3rd session, you have an export plan that's really tailored for your industry, your business, your financial situation. And then we try to take you on a trade mission. So if you've identified Argentina as your export opportunity and you're going to sell, platelets from blood to Argentina, we'll try to connect you with the USIAC and with the state of Maryland and with the SBA, all working together to specific opportunities in Argentina to sell platelets. And we'll try to walk you through everything you need to know up front to do that. The onus is still on you to do the work, but we'll do everything we can to help collectively prepare you for that opportunity.
So is it an application process, or how does it work?
If you talk to Carla or Yolanta here at the U.S. Export Assistance Center, they can take your application. And we will be doing a session this year on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and perhaps a second one in this area. So it generally happens once or twice per year.
Awesome. So Carla, how can the Export Assistance Center help companies find new international partners? Because we hear a lot about how relationships are really important and building a strong team, and it's a team sport. How do we leverage what you all do to help us to identify those potential new international partners?
Sure, thank you for the question. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we are an extensive network, and we have offices not only across the United States, but in over 80 countries worldwide. So we have commercial diplomats there, as well as local specialists who really specialize in a wide number of sectors and subsectors. And most of them are from these markets, or all of them really. So they're very plugged in, not only culturally but technically. They understand your sector. That's what they focus on day in and day out. Their job is to grow their network in order to facilitate that search or that matchmaking that we work hard to help you achieve. So we offer for many services, but the 4 general categories, to give you an idea, is trade counseling, business matchmaking, market intelligence, and commercial advocacy. So anywhere from just simple guidance that you may need to something more technical. We talked a lot about freight forwarding, for example, customs, specific to the particular market that you're interested in. The matchmaking services, we spoke earlier about Gold Key service. That's probably one of our most popular ones. We work with the company to assess, if the market is right for you and if there's potential for you in the countries that you're interested in. And then we work with our colleagues in these markets that we're considering, and they'll screen these potential clients or partners, distributors in these countries, and then we take it from there. You do a country visit, but we'll also offer a lot of additional services with the focus on matching you to a potential client or partner. I don't know if I think that should suffice.
So it sounds like a lot of great benefits that you all provide. Now, is there a set of requirements or guidelines, anything that is required of me as a company in order to tap into those types of services?
So sure. So I'm thrilled that Kyle's here with us, because we do often get calls from companies that really aren't ready, that are just thinking they have an idea to start a business, or haven't been in business that long, or maybe they have but they don't have a good grasp on what their exporting plan is going to be, or what they envision. So that's, I think, where the SPDC and SBA really has a huge role. So in terms of our criteria, we prefer to work with companies that are established, that have been in business for some time, that are doing, know what they're doing and doing it well here in the U.S. Because it'll just be not necessarily easier, but the transition won't be as disastrous for you. And of course, we want you to be successful. And more importantly, if you're looking at such a competitive world, so if you're looking to compete in these new markets, you have to bring your A game. So
Beautiful. And so, of course, I was focusing on all the different free services and all that good stuff. But we know that there is a cost to exporting. So, Mark, if I'm new to exporting, what sort of budget do you think I should set aside in order to prepare myself to enter new markets?
So I think the budget starts out very modest, and it grows as you get your commitment and your plan together. And I think the beauty of having a well-developed plan is you'll know pretty much before you execute the plan how much it's going to cost. But I think if you want to get into exporting, as Carla said, if you've had some track record in the U.S., if you can set aside an initial $5,000, you can probably get through the process of really developing an export plan using the many assets that you've heard about this morning. It's a team sport. Tap into all those, refine your plan, understand your markets, know where you're going, what your objectives are. And at that point, you've got to go overseas generally, or you've certainly got to find an agent in a country. At that point, the costs start to go up a little bit, and you're going to have to assess the risk-reward benefits as you go. And you may get to the $5,000 point and pull back. You may say, and that's a success. I mean, if you've really looked in the mirror and you've decided, I can't do this, and you've spent $5,000, you're still way ahead as opposed to getting in over your head. So it's a process, it's a step. Mm-hmm. And how much, if you're going to be an aerospace manufacturer and sell to Brazil, you may end up spending $100,000 to do that. If you're trying to sell, a plant product in Asia that's where the market's very receptive to that particular product, your $5,000 and an internet connection may do it. Mm-hmm. So it varies widely.
So what is this $5,000 exactly? Like, what is it covering? Is it covering consulting to get your business plan ready, or what is it?
So depending on the process you use, it's the cost of your labor to go out and spend time with the experts that you need to talk to. Mm-hmm. And most of those experts are free. Okay. I mean, your first step should not be to hire a consultant. It ought to be use the government resources that are at your hand. I mean, if the IRS is on one end of the scale, these guys that I'm sitting with here on the other end, they really are here to help you. And unmatched in any place in the world will you find the number and depth of services that are provided to you as a U.S. business to help you export. So take advantage of that, I guess is the message.
Okay. And so you alluded to also, and I think another piece of it is the whole trade missions and that whole, how can your agencies assist the small businesses in the room or watching online in terms of identifying or being involved in trade missions? Is there some sort of formal process that they have to go through, or what does that look like?
So I'll kick it off. So trade missions, as you can imagine, we host a lot of trade missions in all of our countries. And we even host them here in the United States. As I mentioned, we have offices throughout the United States. So we always encourage our companies to attend these trade missions. Let's say, for example, we just had Trade Winds is what the name we use for it. We had one in Latin America, and last year we had one in Africa. But the most recent one we had was in Latin America, and we focused on a couple of countries. We didn't go to all of them, but we went to a couple like Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay. And I think Mexico is also included. So you would just apply, and you would fill out sort of an application, which is free, And the advantage is that my colleagues in the countries that are hosting the trade mission would do a market assessment. And they'll tell you, your sector, your product, your service, it's just not what's hot right now, or what the market needs. Or they'll say it is, and these are the pros and cons, this is the potential here, and then you make a decision based on this market assessment. There is a fee. Most of our services, Kelly had mentioned that we offer a lot of services, they're not always free, and they're not, but the cost is very minimal. It's really just to cover overhead administrative costs and to fund some of these trade missions and trade fairs that we host. But yes, so you would fill out the application, do a market assessment, you would determine whether you wanted to go or not. You pay for your lodging and the flight, and then just the basic costs to participate. But I should mention, and I know we're going to touch on this, the state of Maryland Department of Commerce, unfortunately they weren't able to join us as we had to change the date, so for unforeseen reasons they're not here. But they also offer fantastic and complimentary services to y'all. And we work very closely together. And so, for instance, if you're interested to go to the trade mission and you're ready to go, they have this competitive grant program that's basically they'll reimburse you up to $6,000 in expenses. And you would apply. It's on a rotating basis, pretty much every quarter or so. And you can use it for our services and other services that they offer or that you found on your own.
Awesome.
So
Others?
I'm just going to piggyback exactly what you said. The SBA actually has a STEP grant program, which is for state government, and Maryland is a recipient. And through that, I would say if you're looking for a trade mission or some additional resources, you might want to check your state government to see if they have the STEP program. And a lot of times they'll help fund your trade activities, whether it be actually going on a trade mission, maybe it's just doing some of the market research, leveraging Gold Key and some of the other resources at Commerce. So if you're not sure if your state government has a program, you can check on our website and we'll tell you exactly if you do and who the point of contact is, and it's just sba.gov/STEP, STEP.
Just very quickly, if you don't mind, I forgot to mention, and I don't know if we actually define what a trade mission is, but so basically we would, as I mentioned, we'd focus on certain regions. And what we usually do, it's not always the case, but we find that this is pretty successful model, is where you have a business forum in one country, and then from there you have several stops, mission stops in the other countries that are participating. And we also include these business matchmaking services with potential partners, clients, distributors in the countries that you've chosen to go. And so a question we often get was, well, what's the advantage? Like, why would I do this as opposed to just doing a Gold Key service? While they're both good, the trade missions do provide a lot of advantages, and very briefly includes, first of all, you're part of a delegation, so a lot of you are doing business domestically as well, so you never know who you're going to meet on this delegation. Second, you have a big team organizing this, and you get to meet the team, the commercial diplomats and the specialists in these countries who you would be working with anyway, but you'll get to meet them face to face. You'll have the Gold Key service included in the trade mission, the matchmaking service. And in these forums, they often invite high-level government and private sector representatives. So you'll also get to interact with these folks and do additional networking. So yes, that's all.
Beautiful. And so I want to begin opening up the floor to questions. So if you are in the television studio and have a question, please proceed to the back so that we can get your questions answered. So Mark, putting on your deck hat, I guess, how do we find export opportunities? And then what resources are there to help us to find them? So how do we find them, and are there resources available for us?
So I'd start by saying that a lot of our competing countries do this as well or better than we do. So a lot of foreign governments really get involved in interactively finding export opportunities for their companies and actually taking them to the table. As a democracy, we don't do that as readily as a dictatorship might, for instance. But in the world of social media, things are changing rapidly. 10 years ago, it was pretty hard to find an export opportunity without going through a commercial service officer in the country or knowing somebody in a foreign company. Today, it's much different, and it's changing very rapidly. So one of the things we'll be doing this year as a DEC is introducing a program to try to identify the top 50 exportable products in a particular sector. And we're then going to take those 50 top Maryland products, and we're going to push them forward to all the foreign service, the commercial service officers and the state officer representatives in those foreign markets. So it's both a push-pull process, and we'll try as a DEC to do a sector each year. So we'll probably start with defense, which is one of the bigger sectors in Maryland. We'll probably move into healthcare, and we'll each year, working with our partners, we're going to try to canvass the state, find those products that are most exportable, and then push them forward as hard as we can. So to answer the question, it's really a combination of what you do as a company through your website, your social media, how much you enlist the commercial service on Gold Key or the state, doing the trade winds missions, going out and finding these customers for yourself, going to trade shows, but then also participating in these state activities that are really trying to push state-specific economic development.
Now, and you mentioned social media, and so in this technology age and all that good stuff, and the fact that it is a push and pull in identifying opportunities, how do we as Maryland companies, or is there anything that you all will do to help us to legitimize potentially illegitimate or scams? Because we all have been sitting at our desk and you get this email from a foreign country and, oh, we're looking to do this. How do your agencies help us to determine the scams from actual valid opportunities?
Yes.
Want to start?
Okay, I'll kick it off. So due diligence, and this is a common question we get. We often get emails, including from our offices overseas in the embassies and consulates, and they'll ask us the same thing. They'll say, you know, our company, you have a local client here, and you know, XYZ contacted me. Do they exist? And sometimes that's a challenge, you know, trying to find that. But that's what we do, and they do that on their end as well. They'll do a due diligence, and if you want something really extensive, we can do that. You know, like if you know they're pitching a really attractive deal that you really you want to look into, we can certainly help with that.
Awesome. Any other?
Yeah, I'll just add that getting back to trade missions, and it kind of overlaps a little bit. One of the things that we do at the SPDC is we work with the Maryland Department of Commerce, as well as a lot of the EDCs, the Economic Development corporations in each of the counties, which are also promoting trade delegations. In a previous life, I was actually involved in a lot of delegations and working with China. And I got to the point of trying to find the right people to work with. I found the right people to work with in China, who I would assist in recruiting people to go on this trip, these delegation trips. And it was all about trade and capacity and what they can do and all the incentives that the Chinese government might offer. And of course, we go to cities like Suzhou and Wuhan and Hangzhou, which are 13, 15 million populations, which most Americans have never heard of.
Right.
So when you think of China, you can't think of China. You got to think of maybe just one single market. But it was a great way for a lot of the people that I referred to the program just to get out there. It's just you just get the feeling of what it feels like to be in another country and talking to somebody on the other side. And there was some matchmaking. One delegation actually resulted in us assisting a client on a joint venture in China. And to sort of show how we overlap in different areas, when he said he wanted to do this joint venture, I said, well, you need a lawyer. So he says, well, is there anything that I can help you with? And I said, well, let me check SCORE and see if they have any subject matter experts. And it turns out that they had an international lawyer. So we co-counseled with him, and he learned a lot of things, a lot of questions that he needed to ask. And I'm sure we saved him thousands of dollars when he finally talked to that attorney.
Wow, nice. Awesome. Question?
Good afternoon to the panel. My name is Brett Mollison. I'm with XCBG. I'm Director of County Affairs in Montgomery County. I'd like to thank the panel for your efficient and very concise overview of each of your services. My question is as follows. It's actually more of an international skewed question, and it is directly to the Gold Key services. To what degree would you say that your due diligence and or scrubbing of potential partners would be, first and foremost? Secondly, I'm very familiar, having lived abroad myself, and understanding the processes that Exim Bank goes through from a purchase order, and in terms of understanding the lending capacity based upon the credibility of said companies. That being said, from a financial perspective, where do you, I guess, take the lead, since you would be the lead introducer to said companies?
Sure. Well, I would say that our screening process is pretty spot on. It's pretty good. It's very good. But I recall Mary in the trade finance section mentioning that you can find the perfect partner and everything's great, and there could be an incident where they may not pay, and just kind of out of the blue. So I would say that, is it 100% hazardous free? I can't answer that, but I would say that we do an excellent job screening potential clients and customers, because we want you to be successful. We don't want you to come in there and do all this work and fail. It's not good for us, and it's not good for you. So we do take a lot of pride in that process.
I could give you a couple stories from a company's perspective. I mean, we've done it a couple times, and in one case, I was given, it was an electric motor project in China, and the commercial service officer who we met with arranged for me to have the personal cell phone numbers of the General Motors and Chrysler representatives in China, and suggested that I call them and talk to them about the project. So it's that level of personal service. And the other one, I guess, would be in South America, where we were planning a trip, and they basically set everything up. I mean, we had meetings in the embassy, we had meetings with key people in Petrobras, the big oil company. They arranged for drivers in country to move us around the country. We got briefed in the embassy before we went out on the street and started interacting on some of the cultural issues. So I would say it's both having a validated business contact, but it's also the arm around the shoulder telling you how to approach that contact, how to do the logistics in that country. It's pretty awesome. So I would say the Gold Key is one of the greatest U.S. services. I think it's in the order of $600 or.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
It's for new clients, it's $350, and for existing, once you do your first one, it's $700. And again, the Maryland's Department of Commerce, we collaborate with them, so they cover some of those costs. So you can get assistance there. Yes.
Great. And my follow-up question would be the following, since you mentioned manufacturing. I have a water purification company that I'm in the process of augmenting sales in 15 countries. I am looking for new manufacturers in Ghana and Mexico. So understanding political risk and understanding fraudulent activity, especially and unfortunately in African countries, not so much as Ghana, but not to mention any names, but we know that it exists and it is thriving as we speak. That being said, I'm very much interested in looking for a manufacturer, specifically, let's say in Ghana. And from a preliminary perspective, I'd like to know, you're not looking at their financial statement. You're doing some form of analysis that will guarantee, well, not guarantee, but give me comfort in dealing with this new opportunity.
Sure. So I would say that would be a conversation we would have to have with my colleagues in Ghana or whatever country you guys are interested. I can't give you like a general statement and say, yes, we can do this, or so. And I think that's a good segue, just so you know, whether you have a question, any other technical question in terms of, how do I know, how do I find the right freight forwarder, or how do I find a partner, for example, or get a good landscape on the country. It just depends on the country. There's no, one answer for every market. So we would have a conversation, an introductory call, take your information, your organization's information. Is very important to know what your exporting interests are, your competition here, as well as those countries that you're considering. Your sector, again, is your sector thriving in this country? Is it not? What could some of the challenges be? And I would say that, I think sometimes it's not so great to hear, especially if you're thinking of a country that maybe sounds a little sexy and you want to go in there and explore. But my colleagues are often pretty blunt, and they will say, I don't think your market or your particular company would do so well here, or it could, but it would take a little more work. So definitely, we'll give you that type of information. But going back to your question, we'd be happy to have that conversation. I'm not an expert in all of my markets, but luckily we have an extensive network. So, and whatever country you're interested in, we can have that conversation and determine whether it's a good match for you. One thing I wanted to quickly mention as well that I didn't touch on in the beginning is, in addition to our offices throughout the U.S. and overseas, in the embassies and consulates, we also have representation in the multilateral development banks, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with them. We're in Maryland, very close to D.C. So, for example, the Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, we also have the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, based in London, but we have an office here as well, and the bank does. The Asian Development Bank and the African Development Bank. So and sometimes that's a good transition if you're not ready to, pursue, clients, partners on your own, and you'd like to go through these development banks that also, provide a cushion or a soft landing. You can do that, and we can have that conversation with my colleagues.
Thank you again for all panelists.
Thank you.
So, Carla, you alluded to perhaps a process. So, paperwork. What types of paperwork would I need to be prepared to provide you or any organization that's represented here, for that matter, in order to begin doing work with you?
Thank you. So, basically, we asked. It's a basic profile questionnaire intake form, where you would include as much information on your company and your sector and your exporting interests, if you have any particular markets in mind. If you don't, and you're just open, obviously we want to help focus you, and for many reasons. So we could take a couple of different approaches, but this form, paperwork, I would say, is very important to start. And really, that is one of that's the starting piece there. And as I mentioned, we really, it's very important for you to be pretty well established, or and if you don't have to have, you haven't had to have exported, but it certainly helps. So I think that's it.
Okay. Any other requirements for any of the other organizations that are represented?
I think it really depends with SBA on what particular service or activity you're hoping to engage with. So there's not any one generic intake form that would be required, but if you're looking at financing, obviously there's going to be paperwork provided from the lender and some other things. If you're looking to work with some of our counseling services like a Kyle, they may have an intake form to help them better assess you from day one. So it's really going to vary, but conversation is always free. So if you want to pick up the phone or send an email, we're happy to try to steer you in the right direction and let you kind of be prepared for what you might need to do next.
Thank you. Question?
Yes, once again, this is Gabe Omar with the Maryland Small Business Center, Small Business Development Center. So question to you, Mark. What are the requirements for the tech program for a client who comes to me? And to you, Carl, the question is, with regard to market intelligence, do you guys provide reports to the clients so we can refer them to you guys? Mark first.
So in export tech, we're looking for a company that has some experience in selling a product or service in the U.S., wants to export, and is willing to engage a C-level executive for 3 full days over 3 months and to do the homework. So this is sort of the entry bar. If you're willing to commit to us, then we'll bring a lot of free resources and commit to you our free time to help you. But you've got to commit, and you've got to be serious. Second thing is, when we cluster companies together, we look for non-competing companies, because in the process of developing a business plan, we're going to ask you for a lot of proprietary information. It really gets to the nuts and bolts of how your business runs, including your financials. And if you're going to expose that information to your peers, we want to make sure you're not running into a competitive position. And the third thing is, you've just got to be open. I mean, if people are going to reach out and help you, you've got to be really receptive to it. And if you meet those criteria in the eyes of the Export Assistance Center, then you're probably in. And if it's a timing problem, we'll push you to the next class or something. But it's
So it doesn't matter if the company is a startup or established?
if it's a startup, I'm sure Carla's going to ask you some tough questions. And depending on the answers to those questions, you may or may not get in, right? But you've got to have enough of a concept of what you want to do, and USIAC has to feel that that's somewhat viable. Doesn't have to be proven, but it has to be viable. And we don't want to turn the next Facebook away as a startup, right?
But ExportTech is a great program, and because we're very fortunate to have the deck and Mark and Carl as part of the deck, and I encourage all of you to take a look at their website for information on events and workshops, and of course, all of our websites with the export plan application, as well as ours. On export.gov, for example, touching on market intelligence, you can find a lot of valuable information, free reports. One other thing I didn't mention in terms of this extensive network is, obviously, we're part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, and we have a headquarters in D.C. So we have a lot of support from our colleagues there as well, who produce reports. One, for example, is called the Top Market Reports, and we do them on a variety of sectors, of top sectors. Not every single one, but the top ones, and including some of the subsectors like healthcare, for example, information communication technology, and the list goes on. So if you go to export.gov, you can search for top markets. Now, if you want some market intelligence on your particular sector and XYZ country, then our colleagues in the embassies and consulates can help with those reports. They also produce something called country commercial guides. That's free, and they have to do this. They have to update it continuously. And so I also encourage you, in addition to checking out our websites, to look at the search for the countries, and we have a list of all of our offices, not only across the U.S. but also overseas, and they have their own websites. They upload a lot of valuable information there, including this commercial country commercial guide, where they'll give you snippets of info on the markets, on the industries that are doing really well. Intelligence on ways to do business, etc. And then, of course, if you want something more in depth, then that can be provided as well.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, I would just add that the SPDC is a nationwide organization. We're also in Puerto Rico and Guam and some other countries. I think there are 300 and something or 600, I forget, 300 and something. Gabe and I work together. So, the disclaimer there, okay? He didn't ask me the question. That was the good thing. And so we have a special accreditation to be for technology commercialization. And so one of the things we consider is how do they fund it and how do they look for other sources to try to commercialize it. We also work with the universities in a program called Ventures, which has taken all the research and commercialization, technology commercialization organizations on both campuses to focus on trying to develop these businesses and get and provide some commercialization support. So when it comes to occasionally what we run into is a business who can't find that funding or that partner or somebody they can really work with, and sometimes they actually look overseas. And so there's, we have to walk through what is the best opportunity to take your technology overseas, and of course IP is a big, huge concern, and also what kind of ownership relationship you might have. But the key is it may be perfect for their market to develop and sort of beta test and then move it back to the United States once they've developed it. And I've had at least 2 clients do something like that.
Okay, awesome.
Kelly, may I
Sure.
mention just 2 quick points? The state of Maryland, as I mentioned, they weren't able to join us, their international office. I touched on Export MD, but I just want to elaborate a little more because I think it's important. So they have the competitive grant program where I mentioned that they reimburse you up to $6,000 in exporting expenses. But they also, as part of this application, you're also eligible to apply for up to 40 hours of assistance, counseling, market intelligence on the markets that you're considering. So, for example, if you already have in mind some trade missions you want to do and some other travel or anything related to trade, you would include a budget in there, and you could also make a request for counseling, but only on those in those countries where they have a presence. And they don't have a presence as extensive as ours, but I think that's the beauty of working collaboratively, that wherever, if anyone's booked up and we have offices in the same country, well then we can share that work. And where they don't have a presence, you can pretty much count on us being there. They also, and so separate from Export MD, they also have about 20 free hours, I believe, that they provide free, again, in those countries that you're interested in. And they cover 2 of our gold keys per year. Not all of it, but there's a good percentage of it. And most recently, they've partnered with the University of Maryland, the Robert Smith Graduate School. And I think Rebecca's here, so you can find her if you want to wave in the back during the lunch networking session, and she can tell you more about it. But essentially, you will, for a very modest cost, you'll have access to a couple of their grad students, and they'll provide a good amount of hours for you on market intelligence. So I just wanted to mention that.
Wonderful. This information has been just priceless. We definitely want to thank you all for your contributions. As we conclude the panel discussion, I'd like to invite our additional resource partners to introduce themselves as we prepare for our networking segment.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marta Jimenez. I work in Maryland Women Business Center. I am the business counselor for Rockville, and actually we have 2 more locations, one in Bowie and another one in Frederick. We provide services, again, like SPDC, counseling services, training, professional training, and at the end we are a very good connector with between our entrepreneur and all those resources. Thank you for this opportunity.
And I should add that the leader of your group used to be an SPDC director.
Exactly,
so-
Gabe. Exactly. This is a good Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Maria Jimenez, and I work as a small business coach and trainer at Latino Economic Development Center, or LEDC. We are proud to say that we have 25 years working with low and middle income Latino community and other underserved communities. We have two big programs, one in housing, the second one is small business development. I'm here to talk about our services in small business development. We help entrepreneurs to start their businesses and also existing businesses that want to expand and grow. How we do that? Well, we provide trainings in different business areas like finance, marketing, and operations. We also offer counseling one-on-one services in different topics like business plan, business model, marketing strategy, financials, etc. We also offer loans for small businesses. We have 3 offices, one in Baltimore, our headquarters in DC, and an office in Wheaton, Maryland. I'm happy to be here, and I will be happy to meet you at the end of this session. Thank you. Gracias.
And I would like to also add in this one is because you hear the Latino doesn't mean you have to be a Latino. Yeah,
Yes.
You could be anybody to actually go to
Yes,
them.
that's true. We serve other communities as well, so thank you. And our services are free, I forgot to mention that, and also bilingual services as well. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ash, and I'm an Executive Vice President at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. I encourage you all to go global. We are interested in your expansion and success, and as part of that, we are so excited that Carla has offered and has a standing opening opportunity for everyone. You do not have to be a member of the Montgomery County Chamber. It is offered for free. She has standing hours every Tuesday and Thursday each month for several hours where you can tap into the Department of Commerce, her expertise and the expertise of commerce to find out how you can enter and expand into global markets. And this is an incredible resource panel right here for you. I encourage you to reach out to all of them. Another way that we help success is through our programming as well as connecting you to mentors. I wish you much success, and please take advantage of the resources today. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. My name is Leanne Young, and I am the Executive Director for Global Chamber Baltimore. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our organization and some of our services. Global Chamber Baltimore is a chamber-style organization that's focused on engaging companies in more successful cross-border trade and investment. Our members, sponsors, and partners consist of exporters, importers, investors, universities, government agencies, and service providers that help companies with their global business endeavors. Our Global Chamber chapter here in Baltimore is actually part of a worldwide Global Chamber organization that already has chapters in 100 metropolitan areas around the world. And we are on track to grow to about 500 in the next couple of years. In addition to our existing chapters, we also have global trade advisors in many other cities, and that extends our reach through Global Chamber to 190 countries. It is our mission and work to help companies connect and get connected to information and people that can help them be successful globally. And I wanted to stress again, we help them connect from anywhere to everywhere, but we also, we're part of the team too. We work very collaboratively with just about any organization involved in global business, including many of the people that have been here today. I wanted to share with you just a few of our, real quick about just a few of our services. We offer many different things, but we offer strategic connections to just strategic business connections, both globally and locally. We also hold events. Those are live events here in the region, and they are private, public, and collaborator-related events about global business topics. And they include things like roundtables, breakfast sessions, large speaker events, and networking sessions. We have a roundtable coming up focused on, for example, small businesses and women and minority-owned businesses, helping them exporting. That's coming up soon. So that's one of the many things, networking events that we hold monthly as well. We also come from the Global Chamber. We provide worldwide global events, and we have speakers from around the world that are experts in global business, and they share their knowledge. And it also provides an opportunity for the people involved in those to showcase their own businesses on a worldwide stage, on a global stage. So basically, we offer many programs. I'll just leave you with the idea too that we're all here to help everybody, be more successful in the global space. And I'll let you know that, with Global Chamber Baltimore, your Global Chamber membership, it doesn't matter where you join, Baltimore, London, Manila, Sao Paulo, you're a member everywhere. So I'll be here as well. I'd love to talk to you and help you, succeed in your global endeavors. Thank you.
So this concludes the 2016 International Trade Forum. On behalf of the Maryland, D.C. District Export Council, the U.S. Commercial Service, the Export-Import Bank of the United States, the Small Business Administration, and Montgomery Community Media, thank you for joining us.